Hey everybody, welcome to another Mobalytics video. I'm Coach Kairos, and today I want to talk to you about the mental aspects of climbing the solo queue ladder. We're going to discuss the importance of things like tilt and mental fortitude, and show you how they can be used as tools to win more games and boost your climb as we near the end of the season. After these 6 tips, you're going to be fully prepared to show off your new mental prowess in solo queue. The first tip is to mute chat and use pings. Reading chat is really distracting, and you'll often miss CS or lose track of what's going on the map if you're focused on your chat. There's almost nothing productive ever said in chat. It's usually just toxicity, nonsensical babbling, or other people trying to tell you how to play the game. None of these things are worth listening to, so it's better to just mute chat and rely on pings for communication. Everything you need to communicate with your team, you can get across through pings. I have a video on my personal channel that goes in depth on how to optimize your pings, and here are the main points. First, don't ping right on top of your teammates, because you're guaranteed to tilt them. If you think this is a good way to ping, have your duo partner ping right on top of your champion and see how pleasant it feels. Instead, ping on their screen so that they can see it without having to look at the minimap. If there's a gank coming, ping the direction that it's coming from so they know which way to escape. If you're coming in for a gank or to help them, ping on top of the enemies if you want them to engage, or ping behind them if you just want them to survive until you get there. Also, don't spam ping. If your teammate doesn't listen to 2 pings, they definitely won't listen to 5. And if you spam, you risk being locked out of your pings, then you can't communicate any information for at least 10 seconds. Also, you should only ping what's important. That means key summoner spells, major teamfight cooldowns, and objective timers. Don't bog your teammates down with too much information, or they'll likely forget the important stuff. The second tip to master the mental game is to look for enemies who you can exploit. We all know that it only takes one person inting to completely ruin a game. One way you can use tilt to your advantage is to focus on the enemy's weakest link. First, you can look for anyone who's on a major losing streak. The perfect tool for this is the Mobalytics Live Companion. It'll give you all the information you need as you're loading into game. Opponents who are already on a downward spiral will likely give up or go on tilt if they're put behind early. We've all seen that FF at 15 in our team chat after an early first blood or one last team fight around Drake. You can also look for players who are autofilled and may not be comfortable in their role. We all tend to cringe when we see our autofilled mid laner lock in Yasuo, and if the enemy does that, you should definitely put a target on their back. Anyone who's autofilled is less likely to feel comfortable in their matchups, and they'll likely have no experience playing from behind. This will make it really easy to snowball that lane. Once you've identified those players, try to roam to their lane or gank them heavily if you're the jungler. Towards the end of the season, people tend to be a lot more fragile mentally. They're at the end of their ranked game grind, and they can just really get into desperation mode, where they're panicking about not being able to hit their peak rank, and you can use that to your advantage. The same can be said for your own teammates. That brings us to rule number 3, which is don't flame your teammates, ever. As we just mentioned, everyone is much more fragile than they normally are at this point in the season, and that includes your teammates. They aren't immune from that. After a big mistake, they already know that they messed up. There's nothing to gain by flaming them. The only possible outcome is that they might play even worse than they did before. When was the last time that you were flamed by a teammate after a mistake and thought, wow, thanks, you're right, I'm totally going to play better now? It doesn't happen. A little bit of positivity can go a long way in solo queue, because the one nice thing you say to a teammate who just messed up might be the nicest thing they've heard in solo queue all week, or even all season if we're being honest. This will keep them in the game mentally and make it so that they want to win, if for no other reason than just to not disappoint that one nice guy on their team. And if you can't find it in your heart to be nice, that's fine. If you need to rage a little bit, don't take it out on your teammates. Yell at your monitor, slap your desk, whatever you need to do, but don't unleash your wrath on team chat. Our fourth tip is don't instantly queue back up. After coming off an emotional game, whether it's a loss or a win, it's best to settle down before queuing back up. If you've just lost a game, you should reset your mental and decompress a bit. Don't rage queue, because you'll carry the same frustration in the next game and continue that downward spiral. On the flip side, it may feel really good to have a big win, but your emotions can hurt your decision making and lead to more volatile games. You may be overconfident and find yourself trying to make plays that you wouldn't otherwise attempt. Also, waiting to queue helps you avoid those people who are just in your game. Yesterday, I was in back-to-back games against an enemy Bard who roamed to deny my Herald spawns twice. I really wish I just waited a minute to make sure he wasn't in my game again. And the same goes for your teammates who weren't playing too well. If you wait a few minutes to queue, it's much less likely that they'll be on your team again. Our fifth tip may seem kind of obvious, but it's that you need to break your losing streaks. We all know that you're trying to grind out games at the end of the season, so we won't tell you to stop playing after a loss, but you should try to change something if you find yourself starting a downward spiral. One way to do that is to go back to the basics. Instead of trying to get a counter pick, get on your main champ that you know every matchup and every mechanic. Instead of trying that level 2 cheese, just farm it out until the enemy makes a mistake. Instead of going for that ambitious invade, stick to a more conservative game plan. And 2 losses in a row isn't the end of the world, it happens, but 3 in a row is probably where you should cut yourself off and at least take an extended break. At that point, the likelihood of playing at a high level is pretty slim, and even if your team really is bad, you won't be in a position to carry them with your mental in a really bad spot. Our 6th and final tip is to use your dodges. We all know the kinds of drafts that I'm talking about when I'm talking about dodging. Those are troll picks, toxic teammates before they even get to the end of champ select, team comps that make no sense and will get blasted by the enemy. Trying to play through any of these scenarios really isn't worth the risk of tilting. You should work to preserve your mental at all costs, because if you tilt in a game, it's extremely hard to recover and win more games after the fact. So dodging a game only costs you 3 LP and a 5-minute wait. Also, dodging doesn't hurt your MMR. Your MMR is your hidden rank, which determines how much LP you gain or lose in any game. And losing streaks will really tank your MMR and make it much more difficult to climb. So with a limited amount of time and games that you can have until the end of the season, it's important to preserve your MMR by dodging these kinds of games and saving your mental. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Those of you still watching are the true mental warriors. Comment below if you learned something new, and be sure to subscribe to Mobalytics for more content to help you finish your ranked climb this season. I've been your host, Coach Kairos, and I will see you all next time.